My crush whispered, "Last night was amazing," in front of everyone, and I was home alone playing video games. Sophia leaned across the cafeteria table during lunch, her strawberry blonde hair falling over one shoulder as she smiled at me with that dimpled grin that had destroyed my concentration in physics for 2 years straight. Her voice carried just enough to reach the 8 people sitting around us. "Last night was amazing, Ethan. I can't stop thinking about it." My fork clattered against my tray, macaroni scattering across the plastic surface. Every conversation at our table stopped simultaneously. My best friend Derek's eyes went wide behind his glasses. Sophia's friend Amber actually gasped, her hand flying to her mouth in theatrical shock. I stared at Sophia, my brain short-circuiting as I tried to process what she'd just said. Last night, I'd been in my bedroom until 2 a.m., grinding through level 38 of Elden Ring, eating leftover pizza, and occasionally texting Derek about boss strategy. My parents had checked on me twice to complain about the game volume. There was no possible scenario where anything amazing had happened with Sophia Winters, the girl I'd been too terrified to actually speak to, beyond stuttered hellos in the hallway. "What?" The word came out strangled, barely audible. Sophia's smile widened, her green eyes sparkling with something I couldn't identify. Amusement? Mischief? She reached across the table and touched my hand, her fingers warm against my skin. "Don't be shy about it. Everyone's going to find out eventually anyway." She glanced around the table, making eye contact with each person like she was sharing a delicious secret. "Ethan's full of surprises. Who knew?" Derek kicked me under the table, hard enough to bruise. When I looked at him, he was making frantic gestures with his eyebrows that I couldn't interpret. "Sophia, I don't know what you're talking about." My voice cracked on the last word, betraying how completely out of my depth I was. "Last night I was home. I didn't go anywhere. I was playing games in my room." The words tumbled out too fast, defensive and confused. Sophia pulled her hand back, her expression shifting to something that looked like hurt disappointment. "Ethan, why are you acting like this? After everything we talked about, after what we did?" Her voice went quieter, wounded. Several people at nearby tables had stopped eating to watch our conversation. Amber put her arm around Sophia protectively, glaring at me with open hostility. "Wow, Ethan. Really? You're going to pretend nothing happened? That's so gross." Her voice carried across the cafeteria, and I could feel more eyes turning toward us. My face burned with humiliation and confusion. Derek leaned close to my ear. "Dude, what the hell is happening right now? Did you sneak out last night? Did something actually happen?" I shook my head violently, but Derek's doubt was visible. Even my best friend wasn't sure whether to believe me. "Nothing happened," I insisted, louder this time. "Sophia, I seriously don't know what you think happened, but I was home all night. You can ask my parents. They literally came into my room at midnight and told me to turn down the volume." Sophia's eyes welled with tears, actual tears that made my stomach drop with guilt, even though I had no idea what I was supposedly guilty of. "Stop lying," she whispered. "Please just stop lying. This is so humiliating." She stood abruptly, grabbing her tray. Amber and 2 other girls immediately stood with her, forming a protective barrier. "You're an asshole, Ethan," Amber announced to the entire cafeteria before they walked away together, Sophia's shoulders shaking like she was crying. I sat frozen in my seat, aware of dozens of people staring at me with expressions ranging from confusion to disgust. Derek slowly moved his chair slightly away from mine, a tiny gesture that felt like betrayal. "Derek, nothing happened. I swear on everything, nothing happened." My voice sounded desperate even to my own ears. He wouldn't look directly at me. Then why would she say that? Why would Sophia Winters, who barely talks to anyone outside her friend group, randomly make up a story about you? The rest of lunch passed in a haze of whispered conversations and pointed stares. I couldn't eat, couldn't think, beyond the surreal horror of what had just happened. By the time the bell rang for 5th period, my phone had 3 texts from numbers I didn't recognize calling me various creative insults. Walking through the hallway felt like running a gauntlet. People I'd never spoken to before gave me dirty looks. A sophomore girl actually shoulder-checked me hard enough to make me stumble. In the bathroom between classes, someone had written, "Ethan Burke is a lying piece of shit," on the wall in permanent marker. Chemistry class was torture. Sophia sat 2 rows ahead of me, and I could see her friends clustered around her desk, shooting me venomous glances while she dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Mr. Kowalski seemed oblivious to the tension, lecturing about molecular bonds while I sat there feeling like my entire life was unraveling. When he assigned partner work, my usual lab partner Angela physically moved her desk away from mine and partnered with someone else without a word. I ended up working alone, measuring solutions with shaking hands while trying to figure out what the hell was happening. After school, I drove home in my decade-old Civic with my phone blowing up. Instagram notifications, Snapchat messages, texts from people whose existence I'd barely registered before today. All of them had opinions about what I'd supposedly done to Sophia. Most assumed I'd slept with her and was now denying it to avoid responsibility. A few suggested something worse, though those messages were vague enough that I couldn't tell what they were actually accusing me of. The worst part was how many people I'd considered friends were silent. No one defended me. No one asked for my side of the story. My mom was in the kitchen when I came through the door, and I must have looked as destroyed as I felt because her face immediately creased with concern. "Honey, what's wrong? You look awful." I dropped my backpack and collapsed at the kitchen table, the whole story pouring out in a confused rush. Sophia's announcement, the cafeteria scene, the texts and stares, the graffiti in the bathroom. My mom listened with increasing alarm, her hand covering her mouth. "But you were here last night. You were in your room all evening. Your father and I both saw you." "I know," I said, my voice breaking. "That's what I told everyone, but no one believes me. Mom, I don't understand what's happening. Why would Sophia say that? I've barely ever talked to her. We're not friends. We've never hung out. This doesn't make any sense." My mom pulled out her phone, her fingers moving quickly across the screen. "I'm calling the school. This is defamation. This girl is spreading lies that could seriously damage your reputation. There has to be a procedure for dealing with this." She paced while waiting for someone to answer, her free hand clenched in a fist. The call with the school went nowhere. The vice principal, Mrs. Haverson, listened to my mom's explanation and made sympathetic sounds, but ultimately said there wasn't much they could do about student rumors unless there was evidence of harassment or threats. If Sophia claimed something happened and Ethan denies it, that's a he said she said situation. Unless one of them is actively harassing the other, the school's policy is to let students work it out themselves. We can't police every social interaction. My mom's face went red. This isn't a social interaction. A girl is publicly claiming my son did something he didn't do, and it's affecting his treatment at school. I understand your frustration, Mrs. Burke, but unless Ethan has evidence proving he was somewhere else at the time in question, or unless Sophia's claims cross into harassment territory, I'm limited in what I can do. Perhaps Ethan and Sophia could sit down together with a counselor and discuss what actually happened? The suggestion was well-meaning but useless. My mom hung up, visibly furious. "This is unacceptable. That woman is essentially saying you're on your own unless you can prove a negative, which is impossible. How do you prove something didn't happen?" Derek showed up at my house around 7 p.m., letting himself in through the garage like he'd done 1,000 times before. He found me in my room, staring at my phone in growing horror as more messages piled up. Someone had created a fake Twitter account with my name and a distorted photo of my face, posting crude things about Sophia and other girls at school. "Dude, this is getting out of control," Derek said, dropping into my desk chair. "People are saying you assaulted her, that you're denying it happened because you're scared of getting in trouble. Sophia hasn't said anything else, but her friends are all over social media talking about believing survivors and supporting victims." "Survivors? Victims?" My voice came out too loud, panicked. "Derek, nothing happened. I don't even know where this came from. Yesterday, Sophia and I had zero interaction. We've had maybe 5 conversations total in 2 years, all of them about class assignments or hallway traffic. This is insane." Derek studied me carefully, and I could see him weighing my words against Sophia's tears, against the social pressure mounting online. "I believe you," he said finally. "But man, you need to understand how this looks. Sophia is crying. She's acting like something traumatic happened, and you're just denying everything with no explanation for why she'd lie." "Why would she lie?" I demanded. "That's what everyone keeps asking me, but I have no idea. I can't answer that question because I don't know her well enough to understand her motivations. Maybe this is mistaken identity? Maybe she thinks something happened with someone else and got confused about who." Even as I said it, the explanation sounded weak. Sophia had looked directly at me, said my name, touched my hand. This wasn't confusion. This was deliberate. Derek pulled up his phone and showed me Instagram. Someone had created a hashtag, #SchwartzBelieveSophia, that already had 43 posts. Most of them from girls at our school sharing stories about guys who'd lied or denied allegations. The next day at school was exponentially worse. Someone had vandalized my locker overnight, spray painting "rapist" across the front in dripping red letters. The word made me physically sick to see. Principal Davies called me to his office during second period, where I found my parents already waiting, my dad having left work early. "Ethan, I need to ask you directly," Davies said, his expression grave. "Did you have any kind of sexual or romantic encounter with Sophia Winters 2 nights ago?" His directness felt like a gut punch. This had escalated from cafeteria gossip to official investigation in less than 24 hours. "No, sir," I said, my voice steady despite my hands shaking in my lap. "I was home all evening. My parents saw me. I have game logs showing I was online playing until 2 a.m. I have receipts proving my Steam account was active from my home IP address all night. I can prove I was home." Davies wrote something down. "Sophia hasn't filed a formal complaint, but several students have reported feeling unsafe around you based on what they've heard. The school has a responsibility to investigate claims of sexual misconduct, even informal ones." My dad leaned forward, his lawyer instincts kicking in. "Are you accusing my son of sexual misconduct based solely on one girl's vague statement at lunch?" "I'm saying we need to understand what happened," Davies replied. "If there's been a misunderstanding, we need to clear it up. If something did happen, we need to address it appropriately. Right now, all I have is 2 conflicting accounts and a school full of students choosing sides." He looked tired, like the situation was above his pay grade. My mom pulled out printed screenshots showing my game activity, my Netflix viewing history, even the smart home logs showing which rooms in our house had been occupied at what times. Our son was home. This is definitive proof. What more do you need? Davies reviewed the documents, his frown deepening. This is helpful, Mrs. Burke, but I still need to speak with Sophia and understand what prompted her statement. Perhaps there's been a miscommunication or misunderstanding. He excused us, but the damage was done. Word spread that I'd been called to the principal's office, and speculation ran wild about what I'd supposedly confessed to. By lunch, a group of girls had organized a walkout to protest the school's handling of sexual assault claims, even though no one had actually filed an assault claim. 27 students left class and stood in the courtyard holding signs about believing victims. I ate lunch in my car, alone, watching through the windshield as people I'd known for years held signs condemning me for something I didn't do. Derek texted that he'd tried to explain the truth to people, but no one wanted to hear it. The narrative had solidified. Sophia was a victim. I was a predator in denial, and anyone defending me was complicit in rape culture. The speed at which reasonable doubt had evaporated was terrifying. That afternoon, I got called back to Davies' office. Sophia sat in one of the chairs, her face puffy from crying, Amber next to her holding her hand. Sophia has agreed to clarify what she meant by her statement yesterday, Davies said carefully. Sophia? She looked at me, and I saw something flicker in her expression. Fear? Guilt? It vanished too quickly to identify. I want to clear something up, she said softly. I never said Ethan assaulted me. I never used that word. People have been putting words in my mouth. She took a shaky breath. What happened between us was consensual. But now, Ethan is acting like nothing happened at all, like I made everything up, and that's really hurtful. It makes me feel used and discarded. My mouth fell open. She was doubling down, adding new details while simultaneously claiming she'd never accused me of anything. Sophia, nothing happened, consensual or otherwise. I wasn't with you 2 nights ago, I can prove it. I looked at Davies desperately. I showed you the evidence. I was home. Sophia's eyes filled with tears again. Why are you doing this? I thought you cared about me. You said things, promised things, and now you're just pretending I don't exist? That what we had meant nothing? Her voice broke on the last word, and Amber wrapped an arm around her shoulders protectively. We didn't have anything, I said, hearing how harsh the words sounded, but unable to soften them. Sophia, I have barely spoken to you in 2 years. We're not friends. We've never hung out outside of school. We don't text or message. There's no relationship here to deny or dismiss. I pulled out my phone, opening my message history. Look, you're not even in my contacts. There's no conversation thread between us. Nothing. I showed the phone to Davies, then turned it toward Sophia. You can check. There's nothing there, because nothing happened. Sophia stared at my phone, and for just a second, her mask slipped. I saw calculation in her eyes, strategy adjusting in real time. Then the tears came harder. You deleted everything. Oh my God. You deleted all our messages. You really are trying to make me look crazy. Amber hugged her tighter, glaring at me with pure hatred. Davies looked between us, clearly out of his depth. Ethan, is it possible you deleted messages and forgot? The question was so absurd I almost laughed. No, sir. You can check with my phone carrier. There's no record of text between us, because we've never texted. That would require a subpoena, Davies said carefully, which would mean involving law enforcement. Is that really the direction we want to go? His tone suggested he very much did not want to involve police. Sophia stood abruptly. I can't do this. He's gaslighting me right in front of you, and you're letting him. Forget it. I'm sorry I said anything. She fled the office, Amber following after shooting me one more poisonous look. Davies sighed heavily. Ethan, go back to class. I'll continue looking into this situation. His dismissal felt like defeat. That night, Derek showed up again with news that made everything infinitely worse. Dude, Sophia posted something. He showed me his phone. Sophia's Instagram story showed her in bed, face makeup-free and vulnerable, with text overlay reading, when you tell your truth and no one believes you. When he deletes the evidence and everyone says you're lying. When you realize being honest just makes you a target. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to stay silent. The post had 147 likes and dozens of supportive comments calling me every name imaginable. Several people tagged the school's official account, demanding I be expelled. There's more, Derek said grimly. He pulled up Twitter, where the fake account bearing my name had posted increasingly vile things about Sophia and other girls. Someone's pretending to be you and saying horrible stuff. People think you're having a breakdown and confessing to things. Look at these replies. Everyone thinks this is your actual account. I stared at the tweets, feeling reality tilt sideways. Someone was deliberately framing me, using my name and photo to say things I would never say, and the court of public opinion had already convicted me. My dad made calls that evening to a lawyer friend who specialized in defamation cases. This is complicated, he told us after a long conversation. Sophia hasn't made any formal accusations, which means there's nothing concrete to sue over. She's been vague about what allegedly happened, which gives her plausible deniability, and the fake social media accounts are harder to trace than you'd think. We can try to get them taken down, but new ones will just pop up. The internet is a hydra. He looked at me seriously. Ethan, you need to be very careful right now. Don't engage with Sophia or her friends. Don't respond to messages or comments. Don't defend yourself publicly because anything you say will be twisted. But staying silent felt impossible when my entire life was being destroyed. By the third day, I'd been uninvited from a study group I'd been part of for a year. My application to be a peer tutor was rejected without explanation. The college recommendation letter my English teacher had promised me was postponed indefinitely. Angela, who'd been my lab partner since freshman year, submitted a request to be permanently reassigned because she didn't feel safe working with me. Each small rejection compounded, isolating me further while Sophia's social stock somehow rose. She was now the brave victim speaking her truth against powerful denial. Derek's girlfriend Lindsay broke up with him because he refused to stop being friends with me. She said if I keep hanging out with you, people will think I'm okay with sexual assault, Derek explained miserably. I told her nothing happened, that I believe you. But she said belief isn't enough. She said my friendship with you is a statement about my values, and she can't be with someone who values male friendship over women's safety. He looked destroyed. I'm not choosing her over you, man, but I also can't lose my girlfriend over something you didn't even do. The breaking point came during lunch on Thursday, 5 days after Sophia's initial announcement. I was eating in my car again when someone knocked on the window. A senior named Marcus I barely knew gestured for me to roll it down. Hey, Burke, just wanted to let you know you're not welcome at Kelsey's party this weekend. Actually, you're probably not welcome at any parties anymore. Word's getting around that you're a problem. He said it casually, like he was discussing the weather, not announcing my social execution. And if I see you anywhere near Sophia or her friends, we're going to have issues. Understood? I haven't gone near them, I managed to say. I'm actively avoiding them. I didn't do anything wrong. Marcus smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Yeah, well, that's what they all say. He walked away before I could respond. I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel hard enough to hurt, trying to understand how my life had imploded so completely in less than a week. My phone buzzed with another message, this one from an unknown number. Everyone knows what you did. You should probably kill yourself before someone does it for you. The casual cruelty of it made me feel physically sick. That afternoon, I noticed Sophia watching me in the hallway, not glaring or crying, just watching with an expression I couldn't read. When our eyes met, she didn't look away. She held my gaze for 3 long seconds, and I saw something in her face that made my blood run cold. She looked satisfied, triumphant, like everything was going exactly according to plan. The mask slipped for just that moment, and I finally understood this wasn't a misunderstanding or confusion. This was deliberate. Sophia was destroying me on purpose, and I had no idea why. I cornered Derek after school in the parking lot. Help me figure out why Sophia would do this. There has to be a reason. People don't just randomly destroy someone's life for fun. What does she gain? Derek leaned against his car, thinking, okay, let's logic this out. Sophia is popular, but not like ultra popular. She's friends with Amber and that crew, but she's never been the center of attention. Until now. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through social media. Look at this. Her follower count has tripled this week. Every post gets hundreds of likes. She's getting all this sympathy and support. So this is about attention? The explanation felt too simple, too cruel. Derek shrugged. Maybe, or maybe it's about something else. Did you ever interact with her in a way that could be misinterpreted? Did you reject her? Turn her down for something? I thought back, trying to remember any significant interaction with Sophia Winters. There was nothing. We'd been in the same English class sophomore year, but barely spoke. We'd been paired together once for a project on To Kill a Mockingbird, but that was 2 years ago and completely unmemorable. There's nothing, Derek. I have no history with this girl. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed scrolling through Sophia's social media history, looking for anything that might explain her vendetta. Her Instagram was carefully curated photos of friend groups and aesthetic shots of coffee cups and sunsets. Nothing jumped out until I went back 6 months and found a photo from a party. Sophia stood with her arm around a guy I recognized, Trevor Hastings, captain of the lacrosse team, known asshole. The caption read, "Best night with the best person." Comments from her friends expressed excitement about the relationship. Then, abruptly, Trevor disappeared from her feed completely. I texted Derek a screenshot. Did Sophia and Trevor Hastings date? 3 dots appeared immediately. Dude, yes. That was huge drama. They dated for like 3 months. Then he dumped her right before prom. She was devastated. Basically disappeared from social events for weeks. Why? I stared at the photo, puzzle pieces slowly clicking together in my mind. Trevor Hastings sat 3 rows ahead of me in calculus. We'd been paired together for a project last year. We weren't friends, but we'd worked together successfully enough. What if Sophia wasn't targeting me specifically? What if I was collateral damage in something aimed at Trevor? Friday morning, I drove to school early and waited in the parking lot until I saw Trevor's distinctive lifted truck pull in. He parked at the far end of the lot where the seniors claimed territory. I approached before I could talk myself out of it. Trevor, can I talk to you for a minute? He looked surprised to see me, then wary. Sure, Burke. What's up? His friends hovered nearby, protective. I got straight to the point. Did you date Sophia Winters last year? His expression closed off immediately. Why? Because she's been telling everyone I hooked up with her, and I'm trying to figure out why she'd lie about something like that. Trevor's jaw clenched. Sophia's telling people you hooked up? He glanced at his friends, then back at me. Come on, walk with me. We moved away from his crew, toward the empty practice fields behind the school. Sophia and I dated for 3 months last spring. Things got intense fast. Too intense. She started talking about forever and long-term plans, and I was just trying to get through junior year. When I ended things, she completely lost it. Called me 200 times in one weekend. Showed up at my house. Made scenes at parties I attended. He rubbed the back of his neck uncomfortably. Eventually, she calmed down, and I thought we were good. But then, weird stuff started happening. Someone keyed my truck. Someone posted my phone number on Craigslist saying I was selling drugs. A girl I barely knew accused me of assaulting her at a party I wasn't even at. Trevor's eyes met mine with recognition. The accusation went nowhere because I had a dozen witnesses proving I was somewhere else, but it still sucked. The girl eventually admitted Sophia had put her up to it, paid her $200 to make the claim. Sophia got suspended for a week, but her parents are loaded and have connections, so it didn't stick to her record. My stomach dropped. You're saying Sophia has done this before? Falsely accused people to get revenge? Trevor nodded grimly. I thought I was the only target because she was mad about the breakup, but if she's doing it to you too, he paused. Burke, why would she target you? You two aren't even friends. That was the question I couldn't answer. I don't know. I thought maybe because you and I worked together on that calculus project. Maybe she sees me as connected to you somehow. Trevor looked skeptical. That was over a year ago. Why wait this long? We walked back toward the main building in silence, both processing this information. As we rounded the corner, I saw Sophia standing near the entrance with Amber and 2 other girls. She was watching Trevor's truck in the parking lot. When she turned and saw us together, her entire face transformed. The calculated satisfaction I'd glimpsed before flashed across her features before she controlled it. She whispered something to Amber, who immediately pulled out her phone. Oh shit, Trevor muttered. This is bad. She's going to think we're conspiring against her or something. Sure enough, within minutes, my phone exploded with notifications. Multiple people had tagged me in a post from Amber's Instagram. Ethan Burke and Trevor Hastings plotting together right now. Birds of a feather. 2 abusers sharing strategies. Disgusting. The post included a distant photo of Trevor and me talking near the practice fields, which Amber had somehow captured without us noticing. Comments immediately flooded in about Trevor's previous accusation, about me being in denial, about how boys always protected each other and never believed girls. Trevor's face went red as he read his own notifications. This is exactly what she does. She creates these narratives that sound plausible, and people eat them up because it's easier to believe the worst than to ask questions. He looked at me seriously. Burke, you need to protect yourself. Document everything. Save every message. Record conversations if you legally can. Sophia is smart and she's patient, and she won't stop until she's completely destroyed your reputation. Trust me, I've been there. His warnings scared me more than anything else so far because it came from experience. First period was American history with Mr. Chen, who stopped me on my way to my seat. Ethan, the school counselor wants to see you during class. Here's a pass. Great. Another adult intervention that would accomplish nothing except making me feel more isolated. Mrs. Pembroke's office was decorated with motivational posters about kindness and understanding. She gestured to a chair across from her desk. Ethan, thank you for coming. I wanted to check in about how you're doing. I understand there's been some difficulty this week. Difficulty. That was one way to describe systematic character assassination. I'm okay, I said, because what else could I say? That I felt like my life was ending? That I couldn't eat or sleep? That I was seriously considering transferring schools or just dropping out entirely? Mrs. Pembroke studied me with professional concern. I've been talking with Sophia as well, and I think there might be value in a mediated conversation between you two. Sometimes these situations arise from miscommunication or different interpretations of the same event. A trained mediator could help you both feel heard and understood. She said it like it was a reasonable suggestion, like Sophia and I simply needed to talk things out. Mrs. Pembroke, there's nothing to mediate. Nothing happened. Sophia made up a story about me, and now she's doubling down because backing off would make her look bad. Talking to her won't fix that. It'll just give her another opportunity to cry and make me look like the villain. My frustration leaked through despite my attempts to stay calm. Pembroke's expression softened with what looked like pity. I understand you're upset, but refusing to engage in the resolution process doesn't help your situation. It makes you look defensive and unwilling to take responsibility. Take responsibility for something I didn't do? My voice rose. Why is everyone so convinced something happened just because Sophia says it did? Why does her word automatically count more than mine? Why doesn't anyone care about evidence or proof or basic logic? Pembroke sighed. Ethan, you need to understand that in situations involving potential sexual misconduct, we have a responsibility to believe and support anyone who comes forward with concerns. It's called trauma-informed response. We can't require victims to provide evidence because often there isn't physical evidence, and demanding it creates additional harm. But I'm not asking her to provide evidence. I said desperately. I'm providing evidence that contradicts her story. I have proof I was home. Doesn't that count for anything? Pembroke looked uncomfortable. Your parents provided logs and records, yes. But Sophia has suggested you might be confused about timelines or dates. She's implied there might have been multiple encounters, not just one night. Without more specific details from her about what allegedly occurred, it's hard to definitively prove or disprove anything. The circular logic was maddening. Sophia could remain vague and change details as needed, while I had to specifically disprove every possible scenario. I left the counselor's office feeling worse than when I'd entered. The school's official position seemed to be, something probably happened. We can't prove it either way, so everyone should just move on while treating me like a probable predator. Walking through the hallways became an exercise in psychological torture. Groups of girls would fall silent when I passed, then start whispering once I'd gone by. Guys I'd been friendly with suddenly had other places to be. A freshman I didn't even know called me a rapist under his breath, quiet enough that I couldn't confront him without looking aggressive. Derek found me at my locker before lunch, looking uncomfortable. Hey man, I need to talk to you about something. Lindsay's been on my case about being seen with you, and I just got called to Pembroke's office. She implied that my friendship with you might indicate I have problematic attitudes toward consent, too. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I'm not abandoning you, but I think we need to keep some distance at school, just until this blows over. I'll still hang out with you outside of school, but here, people are watching everything. The betrayal stung even though I understood his logic. Derek had college applications to worry about, his own reputation to protect. It's fine, I said, even though it wasn't. Do what you need to do. He looked relieved and guilty in equal measure. It's just temporary. Once people realize Sophia's full of it, everything will go back to normal. But his optimism sounded hollow. We both knew social media never forgets that being accused is often enough to permanently taint someone's reputation regardless of truth. That weekend, I stayed home while my entire class attended Kelsey Morrison's annual bonfire party. My phone showed me everything I was missing through others' Instagram stories. Sophia was there, laughing with friends around the fire, looking carefree and happy. Multiple people posted supportive selfies with her, captioned with things like, "Always believe survivors," and "Standing with the brave ones." No one mentioned me by name, but the subtext was clear. Sophia had emerged as a heroic figure for speaking out, while I was the cautionary tale about boys who couldn't handle accountability. Monday brought a new development. Principal Davies called me to his office again, this time with both my parents and a woman I didn't recognize. "This is Sandra Mills from the district office," Davies explained. "She handles Title IX compliance and investigations into sexual harassment claims. Ms. Mills has been reviewing the situation and has some questions." My dad immediately went into lawyer mode. "Has a formal complaint been filed? Because if not, I'm not sure what there is to investigate." Mills smiled professionally. "No formal complaint has been filed yet, but the district has a responsibility to investigate when we become aware of potential sexual misconduct, formal complaint or not." The interview lasted 90 minutes. Mills asked detailed questions about my relationship history, my interactions with Sophia, my whereabouts on the night in question, my digital communications, my friend group, even my attitudes toward women in general. Every answer was scrutinized for inconsistencies or defensive behavior. My parents provided the same documentation as before: game logs, Netflix history, smart home records, even surveillance footage from our home security system showing me never left the house that night. Mills took copies of everything, but her expression remained neutral, giving no indication whether the evidence meant anything to her. "What happens now?" my mom asked as the interview concluded. Mills gathered her papers. "I'll complete my investigation, which includes interviewing other students and reviewing any additional information that comes to light. Once I've gathered all relevant facts, I'll issue a determination about whether policy violations occurred. That process typically takes 2 to 3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks of this nightmare. 2 to 3 weeks of being treated like a pariah while Mills decided whether to believe documented evidence or Sophia's ever-evolving story. That afternoon, something shifted. A girl named Nicole Thompson, a junior I knew only by sight, approached me cautiously in the library. She looked nervous, glancing around like she was worried about being seen talking to me. "Ethan, can we talk privately?" We moved to a study room in the back corner. Nicole twisted her hands together anxiously. "I don't know if I should be telling you this, but I heard about what happened with Sophia, and I think you should know. Sophia did something similar to a guy at her old school, before she transferred here sophomore year." My heart started pounding. "What do you mean?" Nicole pulled out her phone, showing me screenshots from what looked like a private Facebook conversation. "My cousin went to Sophia's old school in Riverside. According to her, Sophia accused a senior of assaulting her at a party. Big investigation. The guy almost got expelled. Then it came out that he'd rejected her when she asked him to prom, and the assault allegation was revenge. The school dropped the investigation, but Sophia's parents pulled her out and enrolled her here to avoid the fallout. Can I get copies of these?" My hands shook as I held Nicole's phone. She nodded, sending me the screenshots. "My cousin has more information if you need it. The guy Sophia accused, his name is Adrian Lee. He ended up having to transfer schools anyway because even though the investigation cleared him, people still treated him like he was guilty. His parents might be willing to talk to yours about what happened. I just thought you should know this isn't the first time. Nicole looked scared but determined. Sophia can't keep doing this to people. I immediately forwarded everything to my parents and the lawyer my dad had consulted. That evening, my dad made calls while I sat at the kitchen table feeling the first real hope I'd had in days. If we could prove Sophia had a pattern of false accusations, surely that would change things. Surely people would finally believe me. My dad got through to Adrian Lee's father, who confirmed Nicole's story. They moved to Oregon to get away from the aftermath, Mr. Lee told him. Adrian finished high school there and is doing okay now, but it was traumatic. We considered legal action against the Winters family, but ultimately decided getting Adrian somewhere safe was more important than fighting. Would you be willing to provide a statement about what happened? My dad asked. There was a long pause. I don't know. Adrian just started college. He's finally moving past everything. Dredging it all back up could set him back emotionally. Let me think about it and discuss it with him. I'll call you back. The line went dead, leaving us in uncertain limbo. The next morning, I brought the screenshots to Principal Davies, along with a written summary of Nicole's information and the confirmation from Adrian's father. Davies reviewed everything carefully, his expression troubled. This is concerning, he admitted. If true, it suggests a pattern of behavior that casts serious doubt on Sophia's current claims. I'll need to share this with Ms. Mills as part of her investigation. He looked at me seriously. Ethan, why didn't this information surface earlier? Why did it take a week for someone to mention Sophia's history? I explained that I'd barely known who Sophia was before all this started, that she'd kept her past quiet, that Nicole only came forward after thinking about it carefully and deciding it was the right thing to do. By lunchtime, word had spread that I'd brought evidence of Sophia's past accusations to the administration. The response was swift and vicious. Amber posted a lengthy Instagram story about how typical it was for abusers to try discrediting their victims by digging up unrelated past situations. Even if Sophia did make a mistake once before, which we don't know is true because we're only hearing one side, that doesn't mean Ethan didn't do what she says he did. This is just victim blaming with extra steps. Her post got shared dozens of times, with people calling my evidence character assassination and disgusting deflection tactics. Sophia herself posted for the first time since her vulnerable bedroom selfie, a photo of her sitting in her car looking exhausted with text overlay. When you're brave enough to speak your truth, and people respond by trying to destroy your credibility, when they dig through your past looking for ammunition to silence you, when they prove exactly why so many victims never come forward, I'm tired, but I'm not backing down. My truth matters, even if it's inconvenient. The post exploded, getting 200 likes in an hour. Comments flooded in calling me a manipulator, a gaslighter, someone desperate enough to slander a girl to save my own skin. The support for Sophia intensified rather than wavered. People who'd been on the fence before now firmly sided with her, interpreting my evidence as confirmation that I was willing to go to extreme lengths to avoid accountability. A group of girls organized a demonstration outside the principal's office during lunch, holding signs about believing survivors and not victim blaming. Someone started an online petition demanding my expulsion that got 300 signatures by the end of the day. The narrative had solidified into gospel. Sophia was a brave survivor being re-traumatized by a predator's desperate lies. That evening, my mom got a call from Adrian Lee's mother. We've discussed it, and Adrian has decided he's willing to make a statement. He wants Sophia to face consequences for what she did to him, and he doesn't want her doing this to anyone else. Mrs. Lee's voice was firm. Adrian will write a detailed account of what happened, and will provide supporting documentation, the investigation records, the clearance letter he received, everything. It won't be easy for him to relive this, but he feels it's important. No one should have to go through what he went through or what your son is going through now. The statement arrived 2 days later, 10 pages detailing Sophia's campaign against Adrian. She'd pursued him romantically at the beginning of their senior year, asked him to prom, and been gently rejected because he was already going with his girlfriend. A week later, Sophia told school administrators that Adrian had cornered her at a party and forced himself on her. The investigation was thorough and quickly revealed inconsistencies in Sophia's story. She claimed the party happened on a night when Adrian had been at a robotics competition 2 hours away, with time-stamped photos and dozens of witnesses proving his whereabouts. When confronted with evidence disproving her claim, Sophia had changed details repeatedly, first adjusting the date, then the location, then claiming she'd been confused about who the attacker was. Adrian's statement included screenshots of text messages from Sophia before the accusation, showing her romantic interest escalating into obsession. "You're so perfect. We would be amazing together. Your girlfriend doesn't deserve you the way I would appreciate you." When Adrian politely redirected her attention, Sophia's messages turned angry and threatening. "You'll regret choosing her over me. Everyone will see who you really are. I'll make sure of that." The escalation was clear and documented, showing premeditation rather than genuine trauma. Ms. Mills called my parents to schedule a follow-up interview. This time, the tone was markedly different. She had Adrian's full statement, Sophia's text message history with him, documentation from the Riverside School District's investigation, and statements from 2 other students at that school confirming Sophia's pattern of targeting boys who rejected her romantic advances. This information significantly impacts my investigation, Mills admitted. I need to re-interview Sophia with this new context in mind. I also need to speak with Nicole Thompson and anyone else who might have information about Sophia's behavior patterns at this school. The re-interview didn't go well for Sophia. According to Nicole, who heard about it from a friend in the front office, Sophia initially denied everything about Adrian, claiming he was a liar seeking revenge. When presented with the text messages and investigation documents, she broke down crying and claimed Adrian had emotionally manipulated her, that her accusation against him had been a confused response to genuine trauma he'd caused. When Mills pointed out that the documented timeline made that explanation impossible, Sophia stopped answering questions and demanded her parents be present. The Winters family hired a lawyer, who sent a letter to the school threatening legal action if the district took any disciplinary measures against Sophia based on hearsay and unverified claims from a different school district. The letter characterized the investigation as a witch hunt, motivated by gender bias and societal tendency to disbelieve female victims. It demanded all interviews cease immediately and threatened a lawsuit if Sophia faced any consequences. Principal Davies looked exhausted when he called my parents with an update about the legal threats, but the lawyer's aggressive stance backfired. Ms. Mills was not intimidated by legal posturing, and the district's own counsel reviewed the case thoroughly. We have documentation of a clear pattern spanning 2 schools and multiple victims, the district lawyer concluded. Continuing to treat this as a credible allegation would expose the district to liability from Mr. Burke and potentially from the Lee family. The Title IX process requires we take all allegations seriously, but it also requires we conduct thorough, impartial investigations. The evidence here overwhelmingly suggests Ms. Winters has made knowingly false accusations. 2 weeks after Sophia's initial cafeteria announcement, Ms. Mills completed her investigation and issued her determination. No policy violation had occurred because no sexual encounter of any kind had taken place between Sophia Winters and Ethan Burke. The report detailed the evidence supporting this conclusion: my documented presence at home, the lack of any communication history between us, Sophia's established pattern of making false accusations when romantically rejected, and the logical inconsistencies in her ever-changing account. The report recommended disciplinary action against Sophia for making knowingly false statements that violated the student code of conduct and caused substantial harm to another student. The determination was shared with both families and school administrators, but was not made public due to privacy laws. That meant most students still believed Sophia's version of events. The whispers and stares continued. The fake Twitter account kept posting vile things under my name. People still crossed hallways to avoid me. Even with official vindication, the social damage was done. My reputation had been shredded, and a 1-page determination from a Title IX investigator wasn't going to repair it. Sophia was suspended for 5 days for violating the student code of conduct. Her parents immediately filed an appeal, claiming the investigation was flawed and biased. During her suspension, Amber and Sophia's other friends launched a social media campaign claiming Sophia was being punished for speaking out, that the school was prioritizing a boy's reputation over a girl's safety, that this was exactly why victims don't come forward. The hashtag #TheStandWithSophia trended locally, with hundreds of people expressing outrage over her suspension. On Sophia's first day back, she walked into school flanked by supporters wearing matching shirts that said, "I believe her." They formed a protective circle around her in the hallways, glaring at anyone who looked at her wrong. During morning announcements, a group of girls staged a walkout to protest the school's mishandling of sexual misconduct allegations and punishment of survivors. 38 students left class and stood in the parking lot for 2 hours, recording themselves on social media, talking about rape culture and institutional failure. But cracks were starting to show. Nicole's information had spread through the student gossip network, and people were beginning to ask questions. Why had Sophia transferred schools sophomore year? What had happened at Riverside? Was it true she'd accused someone else before? A few brave souls started pointing out the inconsistencies in Sophia's story, how details kept changing, how she'd never actually specified what happened, how convenient it was that all evidence supporting my innocence could be dismissed as faked or misremembered. These questioners were immediately shouted down by Sophia's defenders, but the doubt had been planted. Trevor Hastings did something unexpected. He posted a long Instagram caption detailing his relationship with Sophia, the breakup, and the subsequent harassment and false accusation against him. He included screenshots of Sophia's obsessive messages, his truck with "cheater" keyed across the side, and documentation of the false assault accusation that had nearly destroyed his senior year. I stayed quiet because I thought it was over and didn't want to relive it, he wrote. But watching Sophia do to Ethan Burke exactly what she did to me and Adrian Lee, I realized staying silent makes me complicit. This is a pattern. This is intentional, and it needs to stop. Trevor's post was a social media bomb. He had 200 followers, was well known and generally liked, and his detailed account matched the now circulating rumors about Sophia's past. Comments poured in, split between people calling him brave for speaking up and people accusing him of coordinating with me to destroy a victim's credibility. But the tide was shifting. More people were willing to consider that maybe Sophia wasn't the wronged party here. Maybe the pattern of accusations following romantic rejection wasn't coincidental. Maybe believing all victims meant actually investigating claims rather than blindly accepting them. Amber tried to defend Sophia, posting that Trevor was a known liar and that his campaign of harassment proved why Sophia needed support. But 3 of Trevor's friends replied with their own accounts of Sophia's behavior after the breakup, confirming Trevor's story with additional details and their own screenshots. One girl posted security footage from her house showing Sophia showing up at 2 a.m. demanding to know if Trevor was there. The evidence kept mounting, and Sophia's supporters struggled to explain away all of it as coincidence or conspiracy. Ms. Mills's investigation report was leaked, likely by someone in the administration who was frustrated with the social media circus. The documents spread across social media in hours, and students devoured every page. Seeing the official conclusion in writing, backed by evidence and testimony, shifted public opinion dramatically. People who'd been calling me a rapist suddenly went quiet. Apologies started trickling in, most of them via text or DM rather than publicly. Everyone protecting their own reputation by not admitting how wrong they'd been where others could see. Sophia stopped coming to school. Her parents withdrew her on medical leave, citing the stress and trauma of being wrongly accused of lying. According to rumor, they were either homeschooling her for the rest of the semester or looking into private schools where her past wouldn't follow her. Either way, her physical absence lifted a weight I hadn't fully realized I'd been carrying. Walking through hallways without wondering when she'd appear or what she'd say next felt like breathing after being underwater too long. Derek approached me at lunch 3 weeks after everything started. I was still eating in my car, unable to face the cafeteria's social dynamics. He knocked on the window, and when I rolled it down, he looked genuinely miserable. "I'm so sorry, man. I should have had your back from the beginning. I knew you wouldn't lie, but I let everyone else's opinions make me doubt what I knew was true. I was a terrible friend, and you deserved better." His voice cracked. "Lindsay and I broke up anyway, and half the people who were calling you a rapist have now deleted their posts and are pretending they never said anything. I was a coward, and I'm really sorry." "It's okay," I said, though it wasn't entirely. The betrayal still stung, but Derek had been the first person to show up at my house trying to figure out the truth, and he'd never actively turned against me the way so many others had. He'd just tried to protect himself by keeping distance, which was more understandable than admirable, but at least comprehensible. "You can sit," I offered, unlocking the passenger door. Derek climbed in, and we ate lunch together like we had before everything imploded, though neither of us pretended things were the same. The long-term damage became clear as weeks passed. I'd been cleared by every official investigation, Sophia's pattern of false accusations had been publicly exposed, and the social narrative had shifted to recognize her as the villain. But my college applications were still impacted. Online searches of my name still brought up the original accusations before the vindication. Some people who'd believed Sophia's initial story refused to change their minds despite overwhelming evidence, convinced that money or connections or male privilege had manufactured my innocence. The stain was permanent, even if officially removed. Angela, my former lab partner, approached me 2 months later with tears in her eyes. "Ethan, I'm so sorry. I believed Sophia without even asking you what happened. I was so scared of being on the wrong side, of supporting a predator, that I just accepted everything I heard without thinking critically. I abandoned you when you needed friends most, and that was awful of me. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed you to know I was wrong, and I'm sorry." Her apology was sincere, but I couldn't just switch off the hurt of being abandoned by someone I'd trusted. My parents filed a lawsuit against the Winters family for defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The legal process would take years, and there was no guarantee we'd win, given how carefully Sophia had worded her accusations to avoid specific claims. But my dad was determined to hold her accountable in the only way available. "She can't be allowed to keep doing this to people," he said. "Even if we lose, the lawsuit creates a public record of her behavior that might protect her next target." Adrian Lee's family joined our suit, and we coordinated legal strategies. The end of senior year came without the celebration I'd imagined. Graduation felt bittersweet. Relief at leaving, but awareness of how much had been stolen. I'd been accepted to 3 colleges but chose 1 6 states away, where no one would know my name or my history. Fresh start, clean slate, chance to be just another student without the weight of false accusations hanging over me. My parents supported the choice, even though it meant significant distance between us. Nicole Thompson graduated with honors and gave a speech about standing up for truth, even when it's difficult and unpopular. She never mentioned specifics, but everyone knew what she was really talking about. A few people gave her a standing ovation. Most applauded politely but uncomfortably, not ready to fully confront their own role in everything that had happened. I caught her eye across the crowded gym and nodded my thanks. She'd been brave when bravery mattered, and I wouldn't forget that. College started fresh like I'd hoped. Nobody knew about Sophia, or the accusations, or the investigation. I was just Ethan Burke, freshman biology major, guy who was decent at intramural soccer and liked science fiction movies. Making friends felt tentative at first, like waiting for the other shoe to drop. But gradually I relaxed into normal social interactions without the paranoia that had defined my last months of high school. Derek and I stayed in touch, though the friendship felt different now, marked by awareness of how fragile loyalty could be under pressure. 2 years later, I got a message from Trevor Hastings. Sophia had enrolled at a university in California and had apparently started targeting a guy in her dorm following the same pattern. But this time, her victims had receipts. Adrian's family, Trevor, me, and 2 other guys who'd come forward after the lawsuit became public had created a document detailing Sophia's tactics and history. When the California situation escalated, someone showed the document to campus administrators, and Sophia was put on immediate disciplinary probation with the threat of expulsion if she continued the behavior. She can't hide anymore, Trevor wrote. There's an actual record now. Maybe she'll finally face real consequences, or maybe she'll just move somewhere else. But at least the next guy won't be blindsided. The lawsuit settled out of court with the Winters family paying damages and agreeing to fund mandatory counseling for Sophia. It wasn't the public accountability I'd wanted, but it was something. The money went toward therapy bills and college tuition. More importantly, the settlement created legal documentation that couldn't be sealed, making Sophia's pattern part of the public record. Future victims would have resources I hadn't had. The cycle might not be broken, but at least it was visible now. Looking back, the whole experience taught me things I wish I hadn't needed to learn. That social media moves faster than truth. That people are more comfortable believing comfortable narratives than confronting uncomfortable evidence. That being falsely accused doesn't just damage your reputation. It damages your trust in institutions, in friendship, in the basic assumption that truth matters. I learned to document everything, to keep receipts, to never assume good faith from people I don't know well. I learned that innocence doesn't always protect you, and that sometimes surviving is the only victory available. My relationship with my parents deepened through the crisis. They'd believed me without question, fought for me without hesitation, and spent money we didn't really have to protect my future. That unwavering support probably saved me from worse psychological damage. Derek and I eventually rebuilt our friendship, though it took time and honest conversations about his betrayal and my hurt. Some relationships couldn't be salvaged. Angela and I were cordial but never close again. The experience had shown me who people really were under pressure, and I couldn't forget those revelations. Senior year of college, I met someone who'd been through something similar at her high school, a guy who'd spread rumors she was stalking him when she'd rejected his advances. We bonded over shared trauma and understanding of how fragile reputation could be. That relationship taught me I could trust again, despite everything, that not everyone would betray me when things got difficult. We took things slowly, both of us carrying scars, but willing to believe in connection despite past damage. The Sophia situation occasionally resurfaces in my mind, usually triggered by news stories about false accusations or social media pile-ons. Each time, I feel that same visceral anger mixed with helplessness. Anger at what she did, helplessness about how easily people believed her and how long truth took to matter. But mostly I feel grateful it ended as well as it did, that evidence existed to prove my innocence, that brave people came forward to expose the pattern. Others haven't been as fortunate, their lives permanently altered by accusations they could never definitively disprove. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Nicole hadn't come forward, if Adrian's family had refused to get involved, if Trevor hadn't posted his story. I'd probably still be known as the guy who got away with assault because of privilege and good lawyers. The accusation would define me forever, truth buried under social certainty. That alternate reality haunts me because I know it's the reality for countless others. People whose evidence wasn't quite enough, whose accusers were more careful, whose defenders stayed silent out of fear. I got lucky. Not everyone does. 5 years after graduation, I received an email from Sophia. Subject line, "I'm sorry." The message was long and appeared genuine, discussing her time in therapy, her understanding of the damage she'd caused, her shame about her past behavior. She claimed to be doing better, to have addressed the underlying issues that drove her to destroy people who rejected her. She didn't ask for forgiveness, just wanted me to know she recognized how wrong she'd been. I read it 3 times and never responded. Her apology, sincere or not, couldn't undo the damage or return what she'd taken. Some things can't be fixed with words. Now, working in medical research and living a quiet life across the country from where everything happened, I occasionally speak to high school groups about false accusations, social media responsibility, and the importance of evidence-based thinking. It's uncomfortable sharing my story publicly, but if it helps even one person think twice before joining a digital mob or one victim stand up against a pattern predator, it's worth the discomfort. The experience broke something in me but also built something. Resilience, maybe. or just profound understanding of how quickly normal life can explode into nightmare through no fault of your own.